Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter and Vero at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Sunday's edition of the DCEU Daily. Zack Snyder had a plan, but does Walter Hamada and Sarnoff and Warner Brothers Pictures actually have a plan? Let me explain to you what I mean. Zack Snyder came in where there wasn't a plan. There wasn't. You know, Nolan and Goya were writing a movie because they had a movie while they had writer's block, you know, in The Dark Knight Rises. That's it. And Zack Snyder had a plan because he was put in charge of this entire franchise. Now, you look at Snyder's plan and it's kind of a really good plan, right? I remember one of his interviews during Man of Steel, the marketing for Man of Steel. First of all, he was asked if he was going to do a Justice League movie, and he said, we need to get Superman's house in order. Now, what did he mean by this? Well, he meant the history of Superman as well. He was very much aware that everyone had struggled at the studio to put together a Superman film since Superman 2 and Superman 3, really. And a lot of people don't like Superman 3. But the first two, especially the first one, were the ones that everyone kind of looks to as a blue touch paper moment, especially Kevin Feige at Marvel Studios. Marvel Studios is basically built up from what they did on Superman the movie. So that's what partially Zack meant. But he also meant in the story. And this is why I always say Snyder believed that Kal-El had to earn the right to become Superman, and that's the very essence of his Snyderverse arc. We see it in BVS, we see it in Justice League, and there was more to tell. So the idea of the initial 5-part arc was to get Superman's house in order. Very smart, very clever. So what is the Hamada Plan? I understand, because I've argued this with people who say he hasn't got a plan before, that he wants to reboot the entire universe using a Flashpoint movie. But it's okay demolishing the building, but you've got to have a plan on how you're going to rebuild it and structure it properly. What is the plan after Flashpoint? It's very important, right? We know we're going to get a more interconnected, rebooted DCEU, especially starting from next year, in terms of Black Adam, The Flash, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Batgirl and Blue Beetle. All this will be interconnected, and who knows if the Batman will have any connections to the DCEU Earth 1. We really don't know what's going on. We know it's in Earth 2, and that's that. Now, by having an Earth 2, it looks like that they do have this plan to have another Earth, but they've also said they're not planning to kind of populate the DCEU with Earth 3 and Earth 4. I think that's pretty problematic. But anyway, so what is their plan beyond Flashpoint? Well, do they have one? It's an interesting point. Walter Hamada turned up at DC Fandom last year, but he didn't turn up at DC Fandom this year. Neither did Ann Sarnoff, because they're hiding. I'll tell you what their plan is. To get these movies out next year and hope for the best, so when Zaslav and Discovery come in, they don't demolish what they've already done. But David Zaslav is going to come in, and he's going to have his ideas. Now, they don't really have a 2023 slate right now. We have literally, this is what we've got so far as I know. We got the Superman of Colour movie. We've got Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I think the Green Lantern Corps TV series will probably hit HBO Max in 2023 as well. But there doesn't seem to be an extended cinematic plan. We are now in December of 2021, and we should really have a slate for the next couple of years, and we don't. So their plan seems to be, let's demolish this fucker, let's have an interconnected universe. But we need a Thanos Darkseid arc. We need something. We need something to touch all of these movies. Are they going to do this? Of course, the proof of the pudding is within the eating. But until we've ate the pudding, we don't know what it's going to taste like, do we? So it's very interesting to me because you disperse of the Snyder plan without having a plan yourselves. This is the truth. When they removed Zack Snyder from the franchise, they didn't have an idea apart from, let's follow the Marvel formula. Who needs a plan anyway? It'll be fine. You know, that Justice League, it failed because it was all interconnected. And it's all Superman's fault. If we binge Superman and if we just do standalone movies, it will be fine. Is it fine? Is it fine since Zack's gone? Well, let's look at that, right? So we've had Shazam and Aquaman, very successful movies. And in a self-contained universe, we've had the Joker movie. Very, you know, insular, standalone movies, successful. But then we went to Wonder Woman 84 and Birds of Prey, not so successful in terms of what people think. Nobody really knows. Wonder Woman 84 is a bit like Zack Snyder's Justice League. What they made is all secretive, right? The Wonder Woman 84 money, they'll tell us how many viewers they had on HBO Max, but of course, the first film was so popular, of course the second one was going to be popular. But how many rewatches did Wonder Woman 84 have on HBO Max? I can tell you very, very little. I'm lucky to be able to look at these numbers, to know people. Spending 6 months in Hollywood, knowing people to show me these figures that you'll never officially see. But we are starting to see Snyder Cut figures now, and the truth of the matter is, it's just as successful as I thought it always was. So Snyder had a plan, and I'm interested in knowing their plan, but they won't talk. Kevin Feige was very quiet in the early years until, you know, the first Avengers movie written and directed by Joss Whedon. Then you couldn't shut the guy up. He was at that convention, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It was very exciting for Marvel fans. We don't have that figure. The first thing the DCEU needs is that figure. Now, Walter Hamada has a great CV with the horror movies at New Line Cinema. Great job. Although I think they're dying a slow, painful death now, they started off very well. But to be fair, he's not involved in that anymore, so that's probably why. But what does Walter Hamada... Look, I like Walter Hamada as an idea, as a person who's good at putting franchises together. I know a lot of people don't like him, and he's certainly no Kevin Feige. But is he the right person to be the face of this? I don't think that he is, personally. I think we need someone who's, you know, who comes out and talks, you know. Now, I think that James Gunn is a great writer-director. I also think he's a one-trick pony. But I like the way Gunn is on Twitter and Instagram, talking with fans, even arguing and debating, telling people what's going on. He's very interactive. That's what we need at the DC Extended Universe. Snyder used to do it. Over on Vero, he would talk to absolutely anyone who was either constructively criticising him or being, you know, asking him everyday questions. You know, not toxic people, of course. But we don't have that at the DC Extended Universe, and this is something that David Zaslav have to deal with immediately. You know, these franchises are different now. You know, when we had Star Wars and Rocky and all of that in the 80s, there was no internet. You didn't need to be a face. You didn't need to be a voice. You didn't need to interact with people. But we are now in the new age of social media. And it's very important that you interact with your fans, whether you're a YouTuber, whether you're the leader of a franchise. And the DCEU has someone who's working very hard behind the scenes, but we don't actually know the plan. You know, you look at their main writer, which seems to be Christina Hodson, doing Batgirl, doing the Flash movie. They've got Christina Hodson writing the most important film in the history of DC live action. And let's look at Christina's history. It's not great and it's not vast. It's Bumblebee with a female lead. Now, I think it's an okay film and there's nothing wrong with having a female lead. But you look at Birds of Prey, very problematic. You'll say to me, Mick, it's an okay movie. All right, let's take away the messaging, the anti-male messaging, and say, it's a solid enough movie. Is that what you want? A solid enough movie? The Flash movie is huge, huge. And she's doing it. And as I say, she doesn't have the vast CV. She doesn't have the experience. She's not out there talking to people. You know, I think that Walter Hamada will lose his job when Zaslav and Discovery come in. That's what I believe. Now, I don't know about Anne Sarnoff because she's obviously making a lot of moves, and that will be something that Zaslav and Discovery will be looking at. Now, I don't expect things to change immediately when he comes in. Things don't. But because Zaslav's been doing his own research and investigating he will know everything about the people who work in the company he's about to acquire. So he'll look at this. He'll be looking at Marvel and the money they make, even when they make mediocre to bad movies. You can't get... I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? To make a film that people don't particularly like that much or hate in the middle, but they still make solid bank. You can't even market that. That's amazing. The people marketing the MCU are the consumer. Who's been talking about Spider-Man No Way Home for the past 2 years? The fans. Who's going on about it now? The fans. That's why they don't even have to overmarket their own fucking stuff. It's free fucking marketing, everyone. It's sensational, and this is what franchises have now when they're done properly. Who's marketing the Snyderverse right now? I know there's no Snyderverse right now, but who's doing gifts and advertising it and, you know, printing t-shirts? You! The fans! Free marketing! It's there, it's popular, and Snyder had a plan. It breaks my heart when I go back and see these old interviews when Snyder talks about getting Superman's house in order. A very good, proper and right statement. And that's exactly what he was attempting to do. He had a full picture of what he was going to do. But do you know what's even more vital about having a full picture? Telling you and me, the consumer, what that picture is. And he's still telling us what that picture is. We know what Snyder was going to do. He was enacting, really, a new God's arc within his 5-movie plan. And that's amazing. It's as strong as the Thanos plan. It absolutely is. And we've seen how many people love Zack Snyder's Justice League and celebrating Darkseid. People going further saying that, you know, Snyder's new God's interpretation in the Snyder Cut is better than what they did with kind of the interpretation from the same creative, you know, in Eternals. So that's interesting as well. So people, I think, now realise, a lot of people who didn't like Snyder's stuff in the DCEU, thinking, wait a minute, I didn't like that, but now I get why A and B was the way it was, so we could get to C, D and E. Because you look at Snyder's movies, Man of Steel, Chapter 1, BVS, Chapter 2, it's the Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, there's a plan there. Now, you would have seen a bigger part of the arc in Wonder Woman, but that's when they were started moving away from Snyder. But his influence, at least visually, was still there. There's no question about his involvement visually. Jenkins had no clue how to make Wonder Woman awesome. And I think we can see that amazing historic sequence when she's walking between the soldiers shooting at her, the No Man's Land sequence, you know, that's Snyder. No one will ever convince me that No Man's Land wasn't choreographed and directed by Zack Snyder. Jenkins has never done a sequence like that. Show me where Patty Jenkins has got anywhere near a thing like that in her movies, you know, past and present, on that level. Never. It's up there. You know, Snyder's movies have always got that moment. The history lesson in Man of Steel, the history lesson in Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut, No Man's Land. The man's a pioneer and a visionary, and they let him go. And so, you've got to have that's the point about a franchise. Today, you know, you look at Star Wars, those first 3 original movies, they had a plan. He had written, don't forget, he had written a 9-chapter ensemble before he even started making A New Hope, George Lucas, right? And if you see Empire of Dreams, one of the best movie franchise documentaries in history, he talks about that, and he was talking about protecting his sequels. So he was a very clever man. But you've got to have a plan. Feige had a plan. Now you can see how smart Disney were. Disney are not very good. They're not clever people. We've seen that from the Star Wars sequel trilogy. That's why they allowed Feige to do his thing. Now they're interfering with what he's doing, and he has to play ball to a point. But the vision is still his. The politics is theirs. And we'll see how that works out for them. He's already getting some pushback with that. You know, some people calling it the MCU, calling it phase bore. These are things that are going on right now within the fan community. So we'll see how they survive that. So let's look at Walter Hamada's semblance of some plan. Because we haven't really seen it come to fruition yet. He comes in and it's an absolute mess because Snyder's been removed. That vision is kind of dead for now. What does he do after Justice League? It's a mess. So he makes a decision to kind of go with Aquaman standalone but then Shazam is very, very kind of Snyderverse Easter eggy. So that's a bit weird. I don't know what the thinking was there. I like it, but I'm surprised after just mentioning Steppenwolf once in Aquaman, how they went from that to Shazam. But then they went with Birds of Prey and what's the other one? Wonder Woman 84, which were already slated, by the way, before Hamada came in. So those movies, and obviously they looked at it. They looked at David Ayer's, because David Ayer had a Suicide Squad universe plan, where it was going to be Suicide Squad, there was going to be a Joker and Harley movie, Gotham City Sirens, Birds of Prey. He was going to do it all, baby. And then they sacked that man. So by driving Snyder and Ayer out, you know, you lose a semblance of a fucking plan. A good plan that excited a lot of people. Not everyone, but a good bunch of people were interested in what Snyder and David Ayer were doing. So let's look at Walter Hamada. So after Wonder Woman 84, we get the Suicide Squad, which is an improvement on Birds of Prey and Wonder Woman 84. Wouldn't it be hard to be an improvement on those films? But at the end of the day, Gunn makes a half-decent movie. Let's be honest about it. And then Peacemaker in the new year, at the beginning of the new year. So he's doing his own thing. He's doing it well enough. It's not extraordinarily fantastic. Some people telling me that the Suicide Squad is the best DCEU movie. I just can't agree with that, but I like it. I enjoyed it. I sat in a movie theatre on my own during the peak of COVID and really enjoyed the fact that I was sitting in the movie theatre on my own. And it was fantastic, a great experience. But obviously the DCEU needs a semblance of more than that. And so what is the plan now? So as I've said before, they've been doing these little individual movies just to get them through. So the main plan of Walter Hamada was to reboot the DC Extended Universe. So we go to 2022. So basically, the Batman film again was slated before Hamada even touched down. It was actually Jeff Johns who brought in Matt Reeves to do the Batman, but Reeves didn't like what they wanted from him. You see, they wanted him to use Ben Affleck. He didn't want to use Ben Affleck. He wanted to do his own thing, so he walked. But very quickly, Jeff Johns understood they needed to, to staple him down. He was so important, and Batman's an important character, and Jeff Johns knew he couldn't interfere with the creative process of that. So they brought in Matt Reeves, and they've allowed him ever since to do what he wants. So he's building this whole universe, this whole Earth 2, which is very interesting. So you would say that the Matt Reeves situation has been in place pre-Hamada, and Reeves is just doing his thing, and good luck to him. It looks amazing within the promotion and marketing. I'll be honest about that. Then you have Black Adam, and Black Adam again has been slated within DC live action even prior to the DC Extended Universe and Man of Steel. So we've seen a little snippet of that. Again, that looks fantastic. The Shazam kind of universe plan looks very good as well. We'll have to see what happens. I'm a bit worried about the lack of interconnectivity, but they have kind of teased some Black Adam stuff in the first Shazam. So it looks interesting. So the plans that are good are the ones that happened pre-Hamada, and Hamada's kind of going with them if you want. Although the first Shazam film was all Walter Hamada, no question about that. And then we've got the Flash movie. Now the Flash movie is definitely Walter Hamada. When we talk about a movie being made by a movie studio, I want you to be absolutely clear about this, that this is a studio-made movie. They went and plucked Andy Muschietti from New Line Cinema, and that was obviously Walter Hamada because he'd worked with him before, and so they've got a director who's going to do what they want. But interestingly enough, Andy has been very opinionated in the development of the Flash movie, and he made sure, first of all, it was going to be connected to the Snyderverse and not Justice League. Very important decision, by the way. You don't want anything connected to Justice League. So well done to him for that. But this is a studio movie. The studio want to reboot the DC Extended Universe, and they're using the Flash movie to do it. And then you've got Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. That's the movie that's going to tell us if there is actually a fucking plan. You see, the Flash movie is a very interesting movie because that either confirms their genius or confirms that they are creatively bankrupt. Because as I say, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that one you look at. You don't want to copy it, but what you want to do, because basically franchise movies need to be kind of plotted out like a season of a TV show. So, for example, when they used to make 24, it was like one long movie episodically. It's consistency. You know what you're going to get from an episode of 24. That's the thing. So when you're plotting a franchise like the DC Extended Universe, as Snyder did, it's episodically. And there's an arc. And there's an end game. No pun intended with the Marvel Cinematic Universe that ended, phase 3. But now Snyder's gone. There's partially a plan, but we don't really know what happens. So basically, it's the mystery present. The Flash movie is the mystery present. You either open it up and you say, wow, this is awesome, or you're going to think, this just doesn't work. Because this film literally reboots everything. They've assured us that everything will be remembered and nothing will be forgotten. Everything's still canon. The entire multiverse will now be canon with the DC Extended Universe. They're putting everything together. Of course, that's very, very exciting. But I still can't forget at the back of my mind that Christina Hodson is writing this movie. So, no offence to Christina if she's watching this video, which she won't be, but I like you, I like your passion, but do you have the ability to do this? So clearly we've got, one of the concerns for me is that Flashpoint Supergirl is seemingly replacing Flashpoint Superman. I don't like that. But that's a typical thing of the movie industry and the entertainment industry today, replacing men with women. Replacing one kind of people with types of background with other types of people and saying, well, it's been them all these years and now it's these people's turn. So that's not representation and inclusion, is it? But anyway, let's stay on point with this discussion, because at the end of next year, and it's such a long way away, which I find incredibly frustrating, because I want to know what's going on. Because this month, we've got Spider-Man No Way Home, which is exactly the same movie as Flash. It's going to do the same thing. Have no doubt that Spider-Man No Way Home is going to make Fox's X-Men canon in the MCU. It's going to make everything that was divided together. It's going to make the Netflix Marvel shows canon. Everything. We're getting Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin in, Hawkeye. Hawkeye, some people are calling it Kate Bishop. I've been watching that. It's okay, but nothing special. But at least, that's what's going on here. From Spider-Man No Way Home, everything's going to be canon within the multiverse. That's what they're doing with the Flash movie. And I think everyone's asking the question, who's going to do it best? Well, we're not far away from Spider-Man No Way Home, one of the most anticipated blockbusters in the history of film, and people are very, very excited. And you can see now they're using, you know, William Dafoe and what's his name? What's his bloody name? Who's the one who plays Doc Ock? Well, the Doc Ock actor, right? Alfred Molina. That's his name. How can I forget his bloody name? He's a fellow Brit. Alfred Molina. And I think there was another one as well. Yeah, Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx is Electro as well. So they're using them for the marketing now, which I think is very, very smart. And so we're quite far away from the Flash movie. Now, from what we've seen of it, it looks good. It looks okay. But we didn't see very much. They're very, very secretive about showing us that movie. Now, to be fair, we had to wait a long time to see any footage from Spider-Man No Way Home. So in that comparison, it's exactly the same. But you see, what Disney and Sony did very cleverly, they started leaking who was going to be in the movie. And it was, I mean, how do you think you even knew who was going to be in it? I mean, come on, they did it on purpose. It's some of the best marketing of all time. But we know that Keaton's Bruce Wayne's in this film. We know that Affleck's Bruce Wayne is in this film. Now, maybe when we get to next year, they may start leaking something similar as Sony and Disney did with Toby and Andy. Who knows? So the Flash movie is a highly anticipated movie. I'm anticipating it. I'm excited about it. But the question always has to be asked, what happens after that? So because it's such a fascinating situation for me, because these people have got this plan, apparently, and, you know, but then next year we get this new company taking over Warner Brothers. So what are they going to do? What is their thinking about what's happened? What happened with Snyder? What's happening with the DCEU? Ultimately, this is business. And success or failure will kind of dictate what happens to the DC Extended Universe. But let's go back to 2023 again and the Superman of Colour movie produced by J.J. Abrams and written by Ta-Nehisi Coates. We're not hearing a lot about that movie. Is that movie rubber stamped? Is that movie really going to happen? At this moment in time, I'm very, very doubtful what's going on with it. Now, you could get a situation, now I could be wrong, because we could hear something about it, you know, going into production very soon, blah, blah, blah. That could also happen, so I'll stand corrected. But you could get a situation where Zaslav and Discovery come in and say, fuck this. No, I want a guaranteed hit. So bring in Henry Cavill and whoever they want to write it and direct it, right? And do a Man of Steel sequel. They may do that. And they may say, no. You know, yeah, you can make that movie, but you can't make that movie before Cavill comes back. Or a clever company would do a kind of Spider-Verse, you know, Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse kind of live-action movie with Superman. That's what I'd do. I'd have the Val Zod Superman. I'd have Ta-Nehisi Coates and J.J. Abrams' Superman of Colour. I'd have Henry Cavill, Brandon Routh, Tyler Hoechlin. I'd have them all on fucking screen together in their own fucking adventure, then give them their own separate movies and television series. That's what ambitious people do. But you still got Brandon Routh trying to beg Warner Brothers to get a place in the Flash movie, to get a place within the DC Extended Universe, because we're talking about multiverse, as Brandon said a couple of weeks ago. So it should be an automatic thing. It makes sense. Do a Superman movie with all these different versions. Superman hit BBC and BBC iPlayer last night. Everyone's talking about how much they loved it. This is a great opportunity. Warner Brothers need new leadership, not just the DC Extended Universe, but in terms of all their franchises and projects. And luckily, we're lucky enough that David Zaslav and Discovery are coming in. But these are people that literally deal with reality shows and documentaries. It's a different way. It's a different type of entertainment. And this is why Zaslav's trying to educate himself. So this is a difficult thing. Now, It's not an impossible thing to get right, because all Zaslav's ultimately going to do is employ the best people within the industry, like he does with Discovery. And this is what he's going to do. And he's going to look at the leadership of DC movies, right, and say, so Walter Hamada's DC president, is he going to do the best job for me? Is he going to make them? Is he going to produce the best movies? Is he going to give the consumer what they want? And that's the question mark. That's right above Walter Hamada's head. So when Zaslav comes in, he will appoint the best people, because that's what people do. People who are ingrained in the comic book community, who are, understand how comic book live action can excite the fans. There's no question the next 6 DCEU movies are very exciting. I think we've seen loads of the Batman, and we can say that's going to be a great movie. So we think. It could be controversial. It probably is controversial. Why not? Controversial movies are great. Just ask us fans of the Snyderverse. But then you've got Black Adam. I have a lot of trust within that movie as well. It looks very interesting. Then you've got, I think, the 2 movies where the question marks are, and I think it's definitely more over The Flash than Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. The only problem for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is Amber Heard. Not that she's going to do anything wrong within the movie, but her reputation. People simply don't like her, and they could boycott this movie because of her. That was a big decision Warner Brothers made by not pushing her aside and recasting her. What they did to Johnny Depp in Fantastic Beasts, they should have done to Amber Heard. Simple. Now, I don't have this ingrained hate for Amber. I find the woman amusing. I do love her badly. But, the good business decision was to move her along. The problem is with Warner Brothers Pictures right now, they kind of work off of emotion, as we saw to the reactions to what Ray Fisher was saying about them. And that's the problem. You can't be emotional in business. It never ever works. You have to be relentless, and you have to be ruthless. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, subscribe, like, and come back again tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.